There are 501c3s all across the country that you see 10, 15% actually go to the issues at hand. What percentage, if I give you $100 right now, what percentage of that goes into the cause?
$100.
Of the $100?
Maybe 101 by the time, if there's any interest on it, before I have to cut the check.
In a world where the stakes are higher than ever, there are those who stand ready to serve and protect. These are the stories behind the badge. Welcome to Best in the Vest, where courage meets compassion, brought to you by Invest USA, whose mission is to put an active shooter vest on every officer in the United States. Today, we meet with retired Kansas City police officer, Ty Grant.
What's going on, man? How are you?
Good, thank you.
Why don't you tell everyone who you are?
Well, thank you for inviting me. Ty Grant, I am the president of the Police Foundation of Kansas City here in Kansas City, Missouri.
Awesome. How'd you end up in this role?
Great question. It was not planned, but I retired from the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department about 4.5 years ago. And literally I believe it may have been the day I announced I was retiring, I was contacted in regard to my interest in taking over the Police Foundation. And discussions led me here.
So what did you do in law enforcement?
A lot, I guess, different jobs, as you can imagine, over a career. So I was here 26 years and was a major with KCPD when I retired. And at the time I retired, I was in charge of our violent crime division. So all investigations that involve violent crime, homicide, assaults, robbery, sex crimes. And prior to that, I was in charge of our narcotics division and all of our task forces that we're involved in. So for the last few years of my job, I basically was in charge of all of our investigations. I was SWAT for most of my career prior to that.
Before we dive any deeper into this, I need to ask the obvious question that a lot of people here are wondering, which is, how long have you had this incredible beard?
Since the day I retired. That was the last time I shaved.
You know, if I had known you were going to be dressed so nice, I feel like we should have a fireplace behind us, a glass of whiskey in a hand, and a stogie. You've got this command of a room that I have to imagine translated from your time in law enforcement to what you're doing now.
We can reschedule if you want. There was a time in my career, actually it was incredibly educational for me. For 4 years, I was the commander over what we call our media unit. So I was our head PIO, Public Information Officer. And working with media during that time frame really made me, I guess, to some extent, reconsider the job to some extent and look at things a little differently from others' perspectives.
So talk to me a little bit about the foundation and specifically what it does.
So our mission essentially is to make Kansas City a safer city. And we do that by helping KCPD. All of our help is given back to KCPD, to the police department. And so through local philanthropy, raise the money, we're 501c3. And I don't want the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department to ever believe that they've located something, whether it be an initiative, technology, an idea that could make our city safer tomorrow, but not be able to afford it. I spend my time working with the police department on kind of planning and, hey, what is it that you're looking at, and is it something that we might be able to help with y'all?
What are some of the success stories that you've had in terms of funding for KCPD?
The body camera, or body cameras, this community was believed that body cameras were something that our police department should have. I'm not sure that most of the community realized the police department had been asking for body cameras for half a dozen or more years, but they had not been funded through the city appropriations process. So our board and said, let's do it. And so we were able to raise $3 million within just a couple of weeks from our community. I'll call it a very short capital project. Very large donors. Let's get some other people on board, and we raised the other $2 million in literally a couple of weeks and paid for body cameras. I should also mention that we did a an initiative with KCPD 4 years ago, maybe 5. We started it to embed social workers within the police department. So we did it before it was kind of the cool thing across the nation to do, before anybody else was asking for it. We funded that with a local partner at the tune of about $1 million. We're very proud of that project, considered a legacy project with us. But what that did was it gave each police station, like we're in right now, and there's 5 of them in Kansas City, is assigned a social worker or 2. And each officer, as the officers go to homes and they see a family that might be in need of something much more than they're able to provide, but truly social services type settings, now they have a professional on staff that is truly trained and a subject matter expert in that area. And those officers are regularly contacting those social workers. Those social workers are visiting those families and really trying to help them to solve their problems rather than the officers just having to go out there periodically to fix them for the moment. It lets the police department help people much more than they really could from a long-term process, to truly solve problems rather than just respond to them that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to do without social workers. Body cameras, obviously, there's a increased sense of transparency, I believe, but the complaints against officers were greatly reduced through body cams. We might be able to argue different reasons on that. I'm told that for the most part right now, when people realize that their complaint was videotaped, then the complaint no longer exists after that.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, many more exonerated complaints rather than just unsubstantiated would be the terminology they use. But we've also been doing and funding a project for several years now that helps the police department purchase cameras and license plate readers to put up in areas around town, and lots of back-end software to go along with it that helps them through some analytical work. And the thought being that as the department is being expected to do the same or more with much less in people, we have a violent crime problem in Kansas City. And so everybody expects everything to be on video these days. So if we can help our police department locate evidence quicker, put better case files together to provide to the prosecutor's offices, violent offenders or people that are shooting up our neighborhoods today, the quicker we can catch them so they can't shoot them up tomorrow again, the more victims we're protecting, the more people we're protecting, the less victims we have, and the cameras, the videos, the license plate readers, and all that software, that kind of a 360-degree software that definitely making a difference.
I'm Michael Letts. I'm founder and president of Invest USA, which is a nonprofit established in 1993, over 32 years ago, for one sole purpose. That's to protect those who protect us.
I'm gonna ask the devil's advocate question here. Without making this anything political, there are some people who would argue that all of these initiatives, although amazing initiatives, are things that should be being funded by the city or the state anyway. No? What's sort of the thought process there?
I agree. But they're not. And to be fair, city, the state, as you said it, there's a lot of things that need funded. So the law enforcement or the police department, let's talk about the city. They're just one department within the city, so there's a lot of other departments that need funding too, to be fair. So there is limited resources to go around, and I understand that, and I think most do. There is a need, though, for, I believe, this community to have a very serious conversation on what is the right amount that is necessary and are appropriate. What's the right investment figure for our police department to provide the necessary funding to make our community safer? And I think that's a very important conversation that we need to have in Kansas City.
Now, what you guys have built here is frankly a model that should be replicated in every city in this country, because it is the great unifier, right? It's bringing people together to support law enforcement. It's helping protect victims. It's helping protect people from becoming victims. And I think there are a lot of people in this country right now who want to help and support law enforcement, but like, I can't just walk into my local police department and hand them a check, right? My business definitely can't, but what you have here is a way for people to support the initiatives that are community initiatives and community-driven programs here. So what advice would you give to other cities, to other states, to people who want to follow or create a similar model?
Good question. I like the way you phrase that. So sometimes when people ask me what I really do from day to day, I think the best thing, the way I can say it, I just facilitate conversations between our local police department and our community, and people in the community that want to help to do something, and the police department's one place they've chosen. So I just facilitate those discussions. So, and I help, I give them a way to be involved. They want to be, and they want to see change. In Kansas City, as a matter of fact, they're demanding change in crime in Kansas City, where we have way too much, as I've already said. It's not necessarily going the right direction. I think what we've done is being able to make a huge difference, but the numbers aren't necessarily down. And they would definitely be a lot higher without the stuff that we're doing. There's no doubt about that. So they want to change. They want to see different, something different. And through the foundation and through conversations, I think we're giving people an opportunity to see maybe a different way they can get involved and become more educated. You know, it's amazing. This city doesn't have a jail. We don't have a local city jail. It was closed half a dozen years ago. They're contracting with jail space in a county or two. I believe it's about an hour and a half drive from here. Very limited number of beds. It's amazing how many people in the community don't realize that. So, and I only use that for an example of the lack of knowledge on some stuff here amazes me, but at the same time I realize there's nobody talking about it. So I think we're facilitating some discussions and getting more people involved in understanding what some of the challenges are and the need to have some serious discussions on how to fix them. And so you did, I apologize, directly answer your question, other communities, it's just facilitating those discussions. With me, I was very fortunate that I inherited a rock star, incredible board for the foundation. And I assisted with some other communities to put together police foundations. The first thing I tell them to do, find the leaders in your community that can, that everybody else wants to be part of that group, right? Even better if those leaders can fund the foundation for a while until you get it off the ground, and be ready to go to work, because there's plenty to be done.
Speaking of funding the foundation, you're 501c3. There are 501c3s all across the country that you see 10, 15% actually go to the issues at hand. What percentage, if I give you $100 right now, what percentage of that goes into the cause?
$100.
Of the $100?
Maybe 101 by the time, if there's any interest on it before I have to cut the check. But you know, my board funds the operational costs of the foundation, so 100% of your contribution or anybody else's in the community goes back to help fund initiatives through KCPD.
I mean, that is a model worth replicating. Shameless plug time. How can people learn more, support the cause? Go for it.
Yeah, well, we have a website, Police Foundation, KC.com, and all of our information is on there, what we do, how we do it, ways that people could help if they want to. But you know, whether you're in Kansas City or not, I see a huge benefit of the community and the police departments collaborating as much as they possibly can on what they want done in their community. How do they want policed? As a matter of fact, I don't think anybody wants to be policed. That even in and of itself is a difficult word sometimes. But what do they want from their police department, and what's that going to cost? And how do we get there? And I think if we work more and more with the community, you know, a police department's not not an organization that the community has. All of the officers are part of the community, right? And so a collaborative process, we've done some amazing things here in Kansas City and we'll continue to do that. Makes everybody feel closer to the end product and just start those conversations and start those relationships.
Awesome. Brother, God bless you for what you guys are doing. Thank you very much. Guys, thank you all for watching. Thanks for hitting that share button. God bless you all and God bless America.
Remember, the next time you see an officer, know that behind every badge is a story worth telling. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time on Best in the Vest.